Stephen Wonderboy Thompson pulled an absolute gangster move the other day by accepting a fight with Shavkat Rakhmonov at UFC 296. And when I first saw this tweet about Thompson saying he accepted the fight, I didn't think it was real. Honestly, how many times have we seen fighters tweet each other on social media and say, I'm accepting this fight, and then never ends up happening? But no, this is a real thing. Dana White confirming it. He will be fighting Shavkat Rakhmonov. And you guys, if you've watched this channel long enough, you know how high I am on Shavkat Rakhmonov as a fighter. I think this guy should be talked about more in the title picture. He's not, for a variety of reasons. Yeah, Thompson, talk about a 180 here. Maybe like a month ago, everyone was talking about this guy and the fact that he wouldn't fight Michel Pereira after he missed weight, and then the Ian Gary situation where Ian Gary had needed an opponent and Wonderboy didn't want to take him on short notice. And a lot of people were saying, look, like, you can't be choosy at this point in your career. It's not like you're a contender at this point. He lost a couple key fights to Bilal Muhammad and Gilbert Burns. You can't really pick and choose. But now he pulls this, and I think any bad faith that Stephen Thompson had over the last little bit here, to me, is erased by taking on, in my opinion, the toughest guy, the boogeyman in the welterweight division, and that is Shavkat Rakhmonov. So first off, you got to give props to Stephen Thompson for taking this fight, and I'm very surprised. And look, would I like Shavkat to be fighting someone else like Kamaru Usman? Absolutely. I did an entire video on this, and I realized that the two, train a bit together. But look, if Thompson wants to accelerate himself to a title shot, this is the type of fight he needs. And for Shavkat, look, like I said, would have preferred Usman or someone like that, but this is better than Calvin Gastelum. I'll tell you that. I think this is a more interesting fight because I don't have any idea if Calvin Gastelum can make 170. Stephen Thompson can. Stephen Thompson will make weight. He can show up. So yeah, just optically wanted to mention that right off the top that, again, I know Wonderboy's been getting a lot of flack. I think some of it's deserved. I think a lot of it hasn't been deserved personally, but this is an absolutely great move here from Thompson taking the fight. And for Shavkat, just glad to see him fight. This guy's had such a hard time finding opponents. Just very happy to see that. So let's get into the fight itself. Quick tail of the tape here, and then I'll give you sort of a little quick preview and kind of the implications for this fight here. So I mentioned it there, the Nomad, 17-0. 17-6-1 for Thompson. Big age gap here, 29 years old to 40. So huge age gap there. Shavkat not even in the prime of his career yet, I'd argue. 6'1" to 6 feet tall, 77-inch reach to 75. So Shavkat going to be a little bit bigger, but not a ton. And Thompson's pretty big for the weight class too. So this should be awesome. Both guys are great strikers. The one knock on Shavkat, and we even saw that a bit in the Jeff Neal fight, he does get hit every now and then. And Stephen Thompson, even though he's getting up there in age, his striking still looks pretty solid, right? We saw what he did to Kevin Holland. That's what's going to make this fight really interesting. And what a great fight to add to this card, UFC 296, which is already looking like a fantastic card. You got Edwards Covington, you got Pantoja Royval, and you got Ferguson and Paddy Pimblett, which I'll address in a different video. But yeah, I'm just happy that Shavkat's getting to fight. And I'm happy that Thompson has kind of got some goodwill back with the fans. Let's look at their last couple fights. I don't think this is talked about enough. Shavkat Rakhmonov's win over Jeff Neal. Jeff Neal has not been finished in the UFC until Shavkat Rakhmonov. That's impressive. Again, no, it wasn't a flawless performance from Shavkat, but I don't think people give Shavkat enough credit for that victory. That's a very, very, very impressive victory for Shavkat. In fact, Stephen Thompson couldn't finish him, right? So definitely makes sense that he's fighting the guy that beat him. And very, very good win there. Made quick work of Neil Magny. I know we've seen Magny get finished a number of times as well. Well, actually not in his last fight against Ian Gary, but Shavkat finished him. Very impressive. And then a couple wins over guys that aren't in the UFC. Oliveira is not in the UFC, but again, all finishes here. This guy's an absolute killer. Looks like the nicest guy ever, but when he's in the cage, man, he is an absolutely ferocious here. And honestly, like, I think if he goes out there and finishes Wonderboy, which is tough to do, right? The only guy to finish Wonderboy in the UFC, if I'm not mistaken, is Anthony Pettis. And let's be honest, that was a bit of a fluke win. If he can go out there and do it, then I have no issue with him potentially fighting for a title here soon. I know Bilal Muhammad's next, but look, there's a lot of guys that did avoid Shavkat as well, and you got to kind of look at that too. So, yeah, I think if he goes out there and gets a finish over Wonderboy, we got to start talking about title implications. Now, on the flip side, whoops, that was the tweet. Wasn't trying to do that. On the flip side for Thompson, this is it. This is really it. If he wants to fight for a title, he has to win this fight. If he doesn't, that's it. There's no questions asked because he's had two opportunities already at contender fights and didn't come through. He got dominated in both fights. The Bilal Muhammad Gilbert Burns fight, beating Kevin Holland. A lot of guys are beating Kevin Holland these days, right? So you beat Gilbert Burns, you beat Bilal Muhammad. Yeah, maybe we're having that conversation. I know he still has a win over Luque, which has aged well, as has the win over Jeff Neal. But these two fights right here would have prevented him from getting ahead. And I think had he beat Pereira, I don't think that's enough to sort of move him up into that top 5, right? Like Pereira's kind of lower end welterweight, and actually he's not even in the division now. He's at middleweight because the guy can't make weight and just made a lot of bad career decisions here. So he's fighting Shavkat. You know, the odds are going to be crazy. I don't believe I've seen the odds just yet, but even just doing a quick poll here, look at this, 87% for Rakhmonov, 13% for Thompson. I think Shavkat's going to be like 3-1, maybe 4-1. Actually, let me just check right now. We might have odds on this fight. Let me just have a quick look here as I misspelled bestfightodds.com here. Oh, we do have odds. Okay, good thing I checked. So DraftKings has Rakhmonov at -410, Stephen Thompson +320. Yeah, definitely agree with that because I do think Shavkat's a lot better. Now, look, I mentioned it there. He gets hit a bit. I don't think Thompson's not really a knockout artist, doesn't really have to worry about that. This isn't a 5-round fight. It's only 3. You have to favor the younger guy in that situation. Shavkat's going to be faster, right? So I think that's the thing. If this was 5 rounds with Thompson's experience, this might be a bit of a different story. But I think with it being 3 rounds, I think that actually favors Shavkat a lot. Now, the opportunity here for Shavkat is that he's got to finish this fight. I will be looking for the inside the distance prop because I think Shavkat is the type of guy to finish a Stephen Thompson. Again, look at the resume of some of the names that he's finished, like a Jeff Neal, who's extremely tough to take out. And I know Magny's been finished a handful of times, but still, this guy goes out there and he finishes. In fact, he has not gone the distance. He's never gone the distance. Wow, I didn't even realize that. So that's what's going to be interesting here. He's fighting one of the most durable guys in the weight class in Stephen Thompson. You look at all of his losses recently, outside of the Superman punch from Pettis, they're all decision losses, right? So this is a guy that's tough to take out. So that's where I'm very interested to see kind of, is Rakhmonov going to be able to go out there and do it? Because, like, what else does he need to do at this point? Because unfortunately, and this is a separate video I should probably do on my own, this whole Kill Cliff FC thing is really killing the welterweight division because none of these guys will fight each other. So that includes Gilbert Burns, Vicente Luque, Shavkat, Usman kinda, even though Usman sort of splits time between camps, Ian Gary, they're all at the same camp. And that's 5 ranked fighters that I just mentioned there that won't fight each other because, like I said in a different video, the fight to make was Shavkat and Usman. If Usman wants to get back to the title picture and he's getting up there in H2, you got to beat a Shavkat, right? You absolutely have to do that. And conversely for Shavkat, he beats a former champion in Usman. I don't know how you can deny him a title shot. So I think a win over Usman would have done more for Shavkat in this situation, but Thompson's a decent name, but I'm of the belief that he's not really a contender anymore. That's my belief. I think he's a good fighter. I just don't think he's a contender. I would almost argue you could even maybe make the case about possibly being a bit of a gatekeeper at this point. We'll see, because he can't beat contenders. Like the last 2 contenders he fought, those fights weren't close. There's a clear path to victory in beating Stephen Thompson. It's wrestling. So I do wonder if Shavkat maybe implements a bit of that as well, but I could just see him striking as well. I think he's pretty confident in his abilities. And like I said, on the flip side of this thing, Thompson, big underdog. This is it. Go for broke. If he somehow pulls this off, and I don't know how he would do it, because again, when was the last finish for Stephen Thompson? Johnny Hendricks, way back in 2016. That Stephen Thompson's long gone. We haven't really seen him do that. So I tend to think if Thompson was to win, it would be a decision victory. Maybe a hedge. Well, no, I wouldn't even hedge. I think Shavkat wins this all day, if I'm being honest. I will do an early look preview on this fight when it gets a little bit closer. But yeah, I mean, right now you have to go Shavkat here. There's just too many reasons to pick him. And I think with Thompson, like I said, I give him full credit. That's the theme of this video. Because again, a lot of people are bashing Stephen Thompson. You got to give him credit here because there's a lot of guys in this weight class that would not want to fight Shavkat Rakhmonov. And I do think this fight is better than the Calvin Gastelum fight. So I want to know what you guys think in the comment section below. Who are you picking in this fight? Who do you think gets it done? Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @LynchOnSports. I'm James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.